Hey everybody, welcome back to Carside Chat. This is the start of the new world order right here, right? This is getting crazy, isn't it?
It is.
All right. I'm your host, Primo, and tonight I have with me Spike, as usual. He's going to be here a lot more often, all right?
Absolutely. I smell the cooking, so I'll definitely be here.
You pull that mic up. You gotta see.
I smell the cooking, so I'll be here.
You gotta see. You gotta move the little thing.
These ones don't look as inviting as the other ones.
You gotta unloosen it. There you go. Pull it up. Good Lord.
There we go. We're good now. It's right up where it needs to be.
He's like, if I'm not gonna make any mistakes, I'm gonna go full on with this thing.
We're good.
No, but this is perfect because this is exactly, I mean, you're full time now here with us, right?
I am full time here.
We're gonna do a show. I think it's gonna be every Wednesday from here on in. As always, we have the lovely Jen over there on the production stand. How's it going?
Hello.
Whoa, you learned to use it. You got this all on it. Do you know what we're going to be talking about tonight, Spike?
The fact that our producer knows how to learn the microphone, and it's going to be Terminator, but in the
time. Come on.
Listen, they made movies about this.
They did. And we got the couch.
We do have the couch.
We have the couch.
Yep.
So we will be taking requests from here on in.
We have the technology.
You're right.
We can rebuild it.
I don't think we're losing the couch for the same way they think we're using it for. But yeah, tonight we're going to be talking about SEMA and all the cool stuff that happened at SEMA. It was kind of a different world for SEMA this time out, right?
It was crazy out.
Yeah.
It was definitely nuts out there. Now, again, I know we talked about this briefly while I was live in Vegas,
Yeah.
but the thump for electric vehicles is insane right now. The Tri-5s. And hey, listen, we don't have buttons. Stop messing with my cord.
There you go.
They want to do that. It pulls the mic away from me.
I know, right? I'm going to adjust mine because now you adjusted yours. Go ahead. Yeah, you were saying.
Well, we're compensating, Alan?
Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
Mine don't go any higher.
So anyways, the push for electric vehicles, the demand, I should say, of electric vehicles, and the industry responded with everything from classics, modern, to crate electric engines from some of our general manufacturers.
Yeah.
And also there's a company out there that won, I think they won best new product, one of the best new product categories. And it looks like a small block. It can either look like a Ford Mopar or Chevy small block. And it's a housing that encases an electric motor, and it bolts into the factory style engine mounts. And then you bolt to whatever output device that you're going to drive the wheels with. Mm. In this instance, it had like a Chevy bolt pattern, the one I saw. So it was kind of neat. And then we had just talked about racing, and we just talked about that. And, then I just sent you that article the other day that they're in the creation of a new class in the NHRA.
Yeah.
The experimental Afx Class, which is going to have, alternative powertrains.
Yeah.
Which, it was funny. We already knew it was going to happen before it happened. It was probably already in the works, but, again, they probably took one look at SEMA. If not, they said, we'll drop this right after SEMA. Okay. And that's what happens. And a lot of anti-dealership chat out there
really
at SEMA. Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
I felt it myself, and I heard that from a few people. Definitely down with the man kind of thing. Everybody's kind of had it with the dealerships and their,
well, I hope you don't get jealous today.
I won't.
But I have brought a third individual into this menage a trois.
I never get jealous.
We have tonight Don Abenante. And do I have Don on the old Zoom meeting here?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
How's it going?
Good. First off, can you guys see me, or am I just my voice?
Oh, yeah, I can see you perfectly.
All right.
Oh, well, Spike can't see you because you're actually behind Spike, but it's okay. No, you sound actually really good. I mean, that sound is perfect.
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Yeah, this is the first time we were actually really tried to use like a Zoom meeting today. And that's the thing is a lot of people kind of warn me, like, don't do Zoom, do it this way.
Yeah, I mean, usually only time I'm on Zoom is when I'm getting yelled at by my accountant.
Right. Exactly.
Great people, by the way.
When the lawyer's on and he's like, hey, whatever it is, don't do that. That's exactly. Yeah. But no, tonight we use the Zoom. And the thing is I really thought it was a great opportunity to have something and, have a guest on and have somebody live that can talk. So, but you guys see, that's the thing is and I mean, you guys are going to do a lot of talking today because for the most part, I did not go to SEMA. I got to see the pictures. But I know Don brought some incredible stuff out to it. He had a blast other than getting in a little bit of an accident. You went out, and I think all of your accidents were on purpose, right, Spike?
Purpose and non-SEMA related.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah. So Don, when you went out to SEMA, what was kind of your big thing? What did you like the best?
Well, personally, it was the car that we built, but there was a gentleman there that we met, the DeBerti brothers or the DeBerti family, and they have that Tire Slayer C10. And I tell you what, that thing was kicking, and those guys are probably the coolest guys I ever met.
Yeah. Now, if you want to go ahead and tell everybody what you actually brought to SEMA, because I think a lot of people will know it, and it's actually a big deal for that. I think that was probably the most recognized vehicle from the event, right?
I'd have to say so. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Don.
So it's an interesting concept. It's one of my favorite trucks too. It's a 85 C10 that the guy who spearheaded it wanted to make it electric, but they didn't want to just make it one motor. It's actually all-wheel drive. So we took two large drive units and horizontally mounted them in the front and the rear, and they're both tied together in the same battery. Now, it being this wild race truck, we didn't just kind of cobble some stuff together. We physically took the battery and built the chassis around it. So the whole thing is like one-off custom crazy piece, and we only started it 7 months before SEMA, so we didn't have a lot of time.
Yeah. Wow. That's the funny thing is how many times we've done these craft things, Spike, and it's right up until the last minute that it gets like, we've had stuff that we've seen, had friends that brought it to it, the paint was drying on it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 100%.
And it's amazing how we get bust these things out like last minute and get them out there. So, but yeah, I did you get to see the truck?
Yeah, I saw the truck.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't get to. It was on the last day, but nonetheless, I did get to throw my eyes on it.
Yeah.
There's still, as smaller as the show was this year, I mean, Don can probably agree here that there was still, as always, there's a lot to see. And it's the way it's laid out, it's not like you could just go to A to B to C to D. It's everywhere. Like there's hallways and corridors, and it's confusing. And why they label stuff, north, south, east, and west instead of just color coding them or giving them numerical values is beyond me. But it's, it was a good show. I mean, that 2 years ago was better, but I'm sure we'll go full circle back next year.
Well, Don, as a displayer, I mean, was that something that you were really happy with that SEMA did this year, or did you have some input from that side?
To be honest, this is the first time I ever went, so I was just excited to be there. But apparently it was a lot smaller than it was the last couple of years, but it was a wild concept going in there, not knowing what it's like and seeing how much hate and how much love we got all at the same time. I'm telling you, people were disgusted by it, and then people absolutely loved it all in the same swoop.
What I can't imagine people had. What negative stuff did you hear? That's the thing.
Well, the thing is, so you got to remember, SEMA is a melting pot of stock, OE, aftermarket, drift, race, F1, Formula, everything. Like NASCAR, drag racing, everybody is thrown into one giant jar.
Yeah.
And we're all a bunch of bees, and you're shaking us up by throwing us, alternating concepts. You got lifted trucks, loaded trucks. I'm sure Don can vouch. He saw the slammed Gladiator.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said to somebody that has one, he's like, I hate it, and I'm like, that's awesome. Yeah, like that's because that's why we come here, because it's that, but that's what branches out a good builder is the fact that they can see the art in what anybody did. I don't have to like it, but I like how they did maybe these door handles or these taillights, or I like what they did with the suspension here. Maybe I use it on something that it'll look 10 times better on. It is a melting pot. And Don, feel free to chime in here. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think what we got most of the hate from was not so much the melting pot. I think people are happy. What I've learned is the big stigma now with this electric stuff, right? We're getting a lot of people saying that we're trying to save the world and we're doing it the wrong way. But then when you come back to them and say, hey, we're just a bunch of hot rod guys who are trying to build something different, sorry, there's somebody screeching in the background. Okay. So we just kind of came across to everybody. We're just trying to build a hot rod. It's almost like the days when guys were doing LS swaps and everybody hated it. All the small block crews hated it. When you kind of talk to some of these people, then they kind of open up a little bit more. But I think we got hate because it was electric and it was a C10. People wanted the old Americana C10,
Yeah, and that's the thing is I've always made that clarification and said that about kind of the basically this new EV craze, I'm going to call it. So the thing I said was somebody got mad and said nobody would accept it or whatever. And I said, this is exactly what the LS scene was back when everybody said LS the world. People were very quick to say, hey, you know what, we shouldn't do this. You shouldn't put a Chevy block in a 66 Mustang. And people did stuff and they had a lot of fun with it. They had, we had good builds, and there are certain cars that have matching numbers that are perfect. And there's a collector out there that says, this is the car. And I can understand if that guy doesn't change his car over to an EV. But if I find a shell out there that doesn't have an engine, that needs love, and I'm going to build some value back into it, why wouldn't I consider an EV? Why
wouldn't you break the ice with something?
Right. And make something new. I mean, it's exactly what Don brought out to there. And I think that was I think that was a perfect example. And I think that's why it got the love and the I guess the features that it got was because it was like that. Right, Don?
Yeah, my whole thing is I got into hot rodding because this is like a passion project for most of us. We love our cars, love to build them. It's a creative outlet for us. So there is no one stamp of approval the way to do it. So I think when you start going outside of the norm, you're going to get people who hate it because they're kind of stuck in that box. My whole thing is all of us, you know what it's like. It doesn't matter what kind of car you have or what you like to build, as long as you enjoy it, that's what really matters. And I noticed a trend. The people who believe in that kind of a thought, they loved it. You know, it's more like an art project for us, you know, or it's like a really fast art project that we built. And honestly, I got to tell you, I think it's the wave of the future. I'm not saying that V8s are gone because I love them. I mean, that's my favorite motor ever. I mean, I don't care what it is. I mean, the smell of it, the visceral feeling of having a V8, you can't beat it. But if it became to a point where you could build an EV car for cheap and it's fast and you can enjoy it, then why not? Like,
Right.
There's no downside to it, you know?
Well, that's the thing is, and I need to tell people because I've seen your cars, and everything about
Beat up
what you
junk fast.
yeah, the stuff that you have is powerhouses. I mean, the stuff that you've actually been on our show before. We've actually covered your shop back when you're working on the stuff that you had. And we're talking twin turbos, big engines, everything powerful. I mean, he was building a twin turbo truck to pull his twin turbo car, and like
I mean, that's how you do that.
exactly. Like this is the way we think, Don. Like everybody else, I think thinks we're extremely nuts. But yeah, that's the thing is here's this thing, and then we look over and we go, and I think the biggest pushback, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think the biggest pushback is mostly on the idea that people are being forced. And I think the idea is once they feel that you have to do this, that's the pushback.
Yeah. So the option just needs to be on the table. Like a perfect example, again, another thing, a subject Don can chime in on here, the new Copo Camaro.
Mm-hmm.
It comes with 4 power plant options. One of them being the EV option, obviously the 427, the 532, and then the 60 LS, 62 LS, whatever the base model, right. If you would call it a base model engine package for a Copo Camaro would be, putting it on the table as an option. You know, it'll be out there. You don't have to force them that way. I mean, they're naturally going to go that way if they see the light in it. But the other dynamic of it is what I deal with as a shop owner is, unfortunately, the V8s have been around so long. It's a saturated industry and it's not at the same time. Mm-hmm. So as a shop owner, I continuously have people come to me that they bring me the broken pieces and they're like, hey, can you put this back together? Right. Because they went to the wrong place. Well, hopefully when they bring their electric car to that place that they brought their gas car to, they're not even going to mess with it. They won't even have to, they can avoid that crisis altogether. Right. And the problem is, as a shop owner and as, being a gearhead, being a car lover and a car guy myself, is you want to help out everybody. And unfortunately, what that gets you caught up in is a giant bottleneck of, well, it took a little bit longer because of blank. And you have that 7 times across the board. And next thing you know, you have delays and production delays and everything else like that. But that's what nobody in the community actually gets. Now, going back to on topic here, I think you're right. I think giving people the option out there to do it, like, is it something I'm going to run out and buy? No. Do I think it's neat? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would I mess with it? Yes. Have I been planning on messing around going down that road for about 4 years now? Yeah. Before it was even a thing. 4 years when I was still at Putnam Street. Yeah. And
I think I remember you bringing it up.
Yeah, we
too.
talked about that. Mm-hmm. I sat down with an investor from
Don was just faster than you.
Yeah. And it's just, I sat down with some big market investor, and he invests people's portfolios and stuff. And he's like, let me tell you something. This electric thing is going to go somewhere. He's like, if you want to stay ahead of this curve, you better be ready to bring in any of these things you can. I'm like, absolutely. And I haven't turned any of them away to the day. Yeah. And that's going to be the cutting edge. It's like being able to cover carburetors to electric capacitors is going to be they're going to be the niche,
Yeah. Don, you got any input on that?
Yeah, I think the problem is, I think the whole country's in turmoil right now, and there's a lot of stuff going on, and people feel like they're getting forced on a lot of subjects, you know what I mean? But the way I look at EV is I think it's just a cool outlet for us hot rod guys to get into. If you think about it, the first car ever was electric. Nobody knows that, but the year before they came out with a gas car, there was a guy that came out with the electric car, and it was there. The problem was technology and the batteries. My whole thing is, when it comes to hot rodding, if you want to go fast, you want torque, and you want horsepower. I saw this funny meme the other day. It was comparing an LS swap to an electric swap, and they had these 2 pictures, and there was a motor and the wires and the LS engine bare bones. when you really get to the nitty gritty of an electric swap and doing it firsthand, it's not very complicated. A lot of these Tesla motors, you can run just a 12-volt input and output to make them go forward and reverse and plug it right into a battery, and the battery controls everything. So people think it's like a voodoo science, but when you start getting the nitty gritty of it, it's very, very simple. The problem is some of the fabrication involved to make it work, Right. But there's people out there, we're also coming up with ideas of making like a dual large drive unit come together with a balancer. I'm sorry, not a balancer, with an adapter that goes right to a turbo 400. So hot rod guys can drop it in. So a lot of things are out there, and it's not, to physically hook it up, it's very easy. It is daunting sometimes in fabrication wise. You got to make mounts, you got to do other things, or, there's a whole gambit that you can go down.
Well, you guys were talking to me about this earlier. I don't know if you brought it up or Don brought it up. Somebody brought it up, that there was already something like a kit already that they were saying that bolts right up to something with a transmission.
Don might have seen it too. There's a manufacturer out there. They won some award in the new product showcase, and they make a electric motor encased in a factory block style composite setting, and it bolts up to a factory style mount.
I saw that. That was incredible. The real winner of the show was Ford. Ford came out with their own little motor. They call it the Illuminator. You could buy it separately, and it was $3,800.
Yeah, and it's already sold out. It sold out a week after the show.
Wow.
And then Chevy, on the other hand, was a little on the oddball size. They want to sell you the complete kit for $25,000. So I don't think that's really going to work. But for anybody who wants a hot rod, go to the Ford Illuminator and pop it in.
Right. Nobody's going. 25 is too big. People will see. I mean, because you can buy. I think every LS kit out there right now, if I'm right, is like $2,000, $3,000 at most. If you get crazy and want to say, hey, I want to make sure I have.
They start off with that until they start breaking stuff because they read all these articles about the junkyard builds and end up throwing push rods in the outer atmospheres.
Yeah, but for the base metal. So if you just say, hey, let's say Don Trott says I'm going to make a kit right now for my truck. He would just go out and have these 3 or 4 pieces and all total from the amount that he's going to sell. He's going to be around $2,000 to $3,000 to make any kind of money for it.
Yep.
But when you get into the 25K range, now you're talking. I mean, that's kit car range. Now I'm building
You're
car.
talking Hellcat engines. You're talking elephant engine stuff, and you're talking about big block 1,000 horsepower Chevy stuff.
That's factory 5 level. So you got to be at factory 5. And somebody tell me if I'm wrong here. Do you have to be at the factory 5 kit car level to be able to get to the level of saying people are going to do that and they're going to be collected into that universe? I mean, am I right here?
That's like drag engine stuff. Like I sell $25,000, $35,000, $45,000 drag engines like on a regular throughout the year, but those people are prepared to spend that. Your average hot rodder is not they're in like maybe the low to high teens tops, right? For a nasty crate engine, but then again, you can't get any of them right now. So,
well, that's the thing that I kind of say about this EV thing is, and that's what Don was talking about was I want to say it's not just cost of entry, but it's functional entry. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, in other words, if I want to be a part of something, I have to do all this work. I mean, Don, you've been through it. Tell me what you think about the whole where it went for you. In other words, what was this process like? Because we're in the middle of this. This should be fairly easy. We should be getting to the point where this becomes pretty much standardized thinking. How was it for you?
All right. So basic rundown is you can actually do it for pretty cheap. All right. So there's a couple places that sell old beat up Teslas that are junked, and you can get a motor and inverter are usually tied together on a Tesla for $3,500. So you want to build a hot rod. Cost of entry for that is $3,500. Now batteries range depending on mileage from $5,000 to $15,000. So it's not bad, right? So you can get a motor for $3,500. If you want to do dual motors, you can do double that, and then for the battery. So here's the thing: when it comes to building a car, if you have a large wheelbase car, you can stick a whole battery underneath. What you can't do is you have a small car, a little Nova, or you got a Corvette, you have to cut the battery up. But there's a Tesla with a battery that has its own controller inside of it. So all the controls you need to physically activate the motor are inside the battery. Now, from there's a couple other companies like Zero, EV UK, and this is the same exact stuff as you would think of like running like a Holley Dominator, right? You got a couple inputs, you got a couple outputs, then you got this CAN bus controller that allows you to feed CAN bus controls of the motor, and all the stuff is the same price or cheaper than having a Holley Dominator. But you could do it the old school way. You could run just 12-volt references to the motor, flip it on, and like a TPS sensor to run the inverter. So it's all it's not like voodoo science. I mean, you can do this stuff for real cheap if you want to hot rod it, There's guys out there who just get a motor, stick it in, cut the battery in half, put it in their trunk, and go down the road. We just happen to take the long route because we wanted this truck to do like a Pikes Peak event where we can have both motors on blast, all 400 volts, all the way up the hill.
Yeah. And do you have? I'm sorry. Do you have a plan to do this down the road, or this is going to be like the big? This is going to actually.
Yeah, we plan on going to Hoonigans, and what's cool about our truck as well is that so when you have these motors, if you do it the way we did it, you can spin both motors opposite direction for burnouts. Motors don't care which direction to go in. It's how you control it. So we could reverse the polarity and spin them both opposite or inwards to do all-wheel drive donuts. And the same thing for all-wheel drive. We can activate each motor, tie them together, and it's just like a drag car. Say if we have too much timing, we can physically go in there and be like, okay, this chassis won't handle all 400 volts off the skip. Let's pull it back to 350 volts. Let's slow the frequency down. So you can fully tune these things. And another thing that you guys would like, Tesla puts a board inside the motor. It's how they activate it, right? It's their tune or whatever. You can get rid of Tesla's ability to get in and out of it, and you can buy a board from somebody else like Zero EV, plug it in, and you can physically tune these things. You can melt the thing down if you wanted to, or you can drive it around like a grandma car. It's fully tunable.
That's the thing that they kept bringing up to us because Tesla was, obviously it's a programmable thing. It's a computer, and effectively, like if you think it's easy to get into a tune on a what are you doing?
I'm listening to you. Don't worry about me.
He's out of control. But yeah, you get into a tune, but you get in something on an electric car, and what ends up happening is it's going to be even easier to tune because you're simply just you pressing some buttons and
all you're doing is giving this thing voltage at whatever stage you want. So if you want this thing to a full rip, you dump all 400 volts off the skip and let the thing light up. Or if you want to give it to your girlfriend, have her drive down the road, get groceries, you back it all out. It's easier than tuning like an LS engine because there's a lot of variables with tuning, ignition, and fuel, boost creep, all the things that can happen,
Right.
With this motor, you go in there and you give it as much of a load as you possibly want. These motors make max torque as soon as you light them up too. So they're violent.
Nice.
I'm telling you, it's people think this is some weird thing or whatever, but when you get in a car like this and you light it up,
yeah.
The weird thing is there is no sound, but it also gives you this weird perception that you're going a lot faster because you just get sucked back. The steering wheel comes out of your hand.
Right.
It's like being in an 8-second car without hearing any noise. It's a trip. You get to feel the road. You're feeling everything. You feel the suspension. It's a very gnarly feeling, to be honest.
And that's the thing. That's when we were driving the Tesla. I forgot which one. I want to say we were taking the S out. Whatever the one I took out. That was the thing. As I said, they were like, "Oh, this car is faster than anything you've ever driven before." And I guess they didn't know the stuff that I'd driven before because I was like, I felt this. Yeah, Smike's big smile over there, like we've been here. But no, to say it was torque on demand. So I definitely felt the level of power that I was putting into it. I liked where it went. Obviously, my biggest concern for EV technology in the future is going to be top speed because I think that's where it kind of hurts. And that's why
that new Plaid just went 9.1. So.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I still go back to the I like that hybrid thinking. Do you know what I mean? Because I think it's good, solid thinking to have both. I like options, and I think that's really the softer way of getting people involved because you get all the power of the electric off the line, and then you have that back end kind of horsepower to help you along the way. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's how people get intrigued in it. But that's the thing is you were saying. I didn't feel the torque, I guess you could say, that I expected from it, but I definitely felt it all at one time. And that's what I really liked. That was the biggest question for that is like any you guys working on drag cars, you got to get the hookup off the line, and that's where you dominate. And that's where that car definitely, moves in the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think another cool thing about this too, people don't realize you know what a Milwaukee drill sounds like when you're lighting it up, right? In front of you.
Right.
It's loud. There's no baffles in it. What people don't understand, and I probably should retract saying that it's quiet. So when you so Tesla's awesome, right? They compact all their stuff. They put all the shroud on it, all this insulation, and it's covered by a seat and whatnot. So you don't hear anything. I actually never knew this, but these Tesla motors out in the open are loud.
Right.
When you rip on them, it sounds like almost like a tram or something like that locked up, and it sounds cool. It's got a really cool frequency sound to it. So there's not totally silent. There is a visceral feel to that too. But the hybrid, there's a lot of people are thinking about doing like an LS and doing all this with a motor that goes to it. The thing is, technology's come so far with these motors now that you don't need to. You can physically have one or two motors stacked together or one. There's a guy who just went almost 343 miles an hour with
There you
two
go.
stock Tesla motors and Tesla inverters on the salt flats. And all he did was do a gear reduction drive because a lot of Teslas are direct drive.
And
Like our
see,
car.
I think that right there, that's the kind of stuff that you need to tell people that are going into the future and saying, hey, I need that power. Now there's your perfect 0 to 60. Really, the only worry you have is really how much grip you can get. And then you have, your top speed. And the last thing on it is cost of entry. And that's something I remember talking to the guys from Tesla way back when they were testing the Roadster that they had. And they were like, what do you think the problem? They were running 13s that day and it just blew up transmissions left and right. They could so much torque that they couldn't have anything with a gear in it. It would just blow the transmission apart.
Yep.
So the thing was that they were at the end of the day, I think they ran a 13.2. And that was the thing is he looked over and he said, do you see any problem with the engine? And I said, no, I think it's great. The only problem I see is cost of entry because I think the car was like $80,000 and it was like buying a Lotus.
Yep.
And I said, if you can get that price down, now they're in the 40,000 range. But let's be honest, if you could go out and spend $2,000 on a kit, get an old car, I mean, how much most am I going to spend for an old busted up ride that nobody cares about? You know what I mean?
Well, if you don't mind me chime in, I like to throw you this idea, right? Say if me and Spike got together, say, hey, we want to build an 8-second car. Let's do it electric. This is how we would do it, right? We'll get something old and cheap. One of my old favorite cars, 69 Camaro. Those are kind of expensive. Let's get a Nova.
Yeah.
Get a Nova, build a little tube chassis for it. We lay the battery on the inside of the chassis. And then here's a cool idea. Use one motor or two stacked together with a power glide. Now, most Teslas are direct drive, but for us drag racing, we really want to get maximum capability out of it. So we like a 4 9-inch in the back. We don't know what gear set we're going to run yet. But with a power glide that's hydraulically controlled to both motors, we can physically have 2 speeds and then change the gear set depending on how fast we want the top mile an hour to be. That solves your problem with having a high top end. Put something ridiculous like almost like a 273 gear.
Yeah.
What's that?
It'd just be like having 2 direct drives.
Exactly. And then we could change our gear set, change our rear gear drive, and then we have ourselves an 8-second car that you barely even have to put a load on. You know what I mean?
Splitting a gear on an 18-wheeler.
Exactly.
Basically what we do.
Yeah.
And that would solve your top mile an hour problem. So there's ways around it. I mean, this stuff is all just coming out now, and stuff's going to be getting way cheaper. I'm telling you, us guys who want to go faster are going to be ripping Tesla motors out. Maybe some other company comes out, take them things, stack them together. Even just do one if the car's light enough. I mean, most of those motors are making 500 horse. I think like 600 foot-pounds of torque. So double them up is kind of overkill anyway, but that's enough to get any car in the 10s or 9s.
Yeah. I mean, that's just, you're speaking my language here. And I think this is something that I don't think that what we're talking about right now really gets out to the public the way we're talking about it. And I think that's kind of the big problem. And I think, so there's my thing, Don. You got, I don't want to say you got hate at the show. I'm sure there are people who are grumpy. I'm going to say grumpy. How's that? And they're going to go over.
Disgruntled.
Yes, exactly. People are
feathers were ruffled.
People are putting their toes in your pond, and
Yes.
people got upset.
You talk about the hate when you guys get a chance because it's the funniest thing you'll ever hear in your life.
Oh yeah, it's the best. It really is.
But yeah, I think the thing is that it comes back to, people are not speaking the language. They're throwing it in people's faces. They're saying this is the future, and they're not saying why. And that's something I think today that we kind of put into
here's
this
a dynamic I'm going to throw at you.
Oh, I love it. Go ahead.
All right. So we've talked and you're the huge advocate about this car community thing.
Yes.
And old blood and new blood.
Yes.
And same dynamic.
Yeah.
So we have these new people with these electric cars, but we're not letting them into the shows. But at the same time, we're thumbing our nose at their technology.
Right.
So we don't want to hear what they have to say, but at the same time, they're trying to tell us what they have to say,
right.
and we're not letting them in.
And we're not listening. Yeah. We just shut them right off when they start.
It's just like it's just gone full circle. So that somebody bullied Elon Musk out of a car show 13 years ago, and now he's out making Teslas that are breaking quarter-mile records. Well, good job.
The thing with Don. So here's the thing, Don. We were talking about this on one of the other shows that we do. I think it was on the Car Grumps that we were doing it.
Yes.
We were having a discussion about what it's going to look like because all these car shows come out, that you have a car show and you know how they get separated. So it's the old cars versus the new car. You even have stuff where the domestic split up old and new.
Well,
then
now old is, define old now.
Right.
Old was 50s, 60s, and 70s before. Now it's, cars that,
exactly.
85 was 36 years ago.
Right.
It's like,
So,
All right. I mean,
so then you add in the Hondas or
Oh,
the,
yeah.
if you will, the imports, if you will, then the European guys, then the exotics. And then all of a sudden Don drives up in his truck. Where do we park him? Like where does he go? Does he just sit out in front and do the thing? Cause he's literally got something that has the power of an exotic car, has the old feel of an old truck. It is a truck. So now he's got the truck area pulled into it too. I just kind of think that there's almost like no place he can't park or no place he can't. But in the same respect, he's looking at us saying, I'm not sure who accepts me. And there's where I'm like, okay, where did we drop the ball here? And maybe it's how we're presenting it. Maybe because we didn't have Don on before to say the world, by the way, hey, you wanted to be this fast. You wanted to do this. You wanted to do this. You can do it. And it's still just as affordable as,
I hate to be cliche when say history repeats itself.
Oh, please.
But, I mean, look at when they started running nitromethane and alcohol in dragsters.
Yeah.
That's when the Afx Class originally came out. Like they were running gasoline and flatheads and everything else. And then, Garwitz came out and started running this. They ran side engines, they ran front engine dragsters, until he almost lost his feet, and then they came up with the rear engine dragster. And I mean, they did the same thing happened. I forgive my date range here; it's a little fuzzy. I was a little young.
Right.
The 40s and 50s here, when that started to take that turn, they were getting looked at the same way.
Right.
Like, you're going to do what?
Yeah.
You're going to run what and what? And it was volatile.
Right.
There was no control. There was no fuel logs. There was no, it was just dump a whole bunch of fuel in it and make some power in it, and let's jack this compression up. So, I mean, I guess it's like history is repeating itself. So they were like, well, what class do we put these in? Until they banged on the door hard enough that they said, this is our class. And I think till more people like John bang on the door and they're like, where do we fit?
Yeah.
And the push comes big enough, it's going to take that to get that individuality that class is seeking.
Yeah.
And that it deserves, mind you.
But you got any input on that, Don?
Yeah, I might be a little too out there for you guys, but my whole thing is most of us that do this do it because we love it for some sort of reason, right? We're artistic or we like to fabricate. For me, I like to build it, and after that, I'm done with it. Right?
Money.
Yeah, most of it is we hate money.
Yeah.
I wish I got into something else when I was younger. I'd be a millionaire by now. But my thing is, instead of trying to figure out where we fit in, it's like, man, it's just do what you love. You know what I mean? If we all liked 32 Ford T buckets or whatever, like this would be one boring show. You know what I mean? The fact that we've been having this conversation shows you some guys like Corvettes. Honestly, I don't like Corvettes. Does that matter? No, I still appreciate when somebody builds them. Just do what you love. Have fun with it. There shouldn't be.
I like that thing. I'm
whole,
all in for that thinking. Yeah.
There shouldn't be this whole thing like, where do we fit in? It's like, if you do what you love, you don't have to worry about fitting in anyway because you're already in it. And my thing is,
go ahead.
My thing is, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say.
It's so funny when we see the hate and you see how like people react to stuff. A lot of guys are like, "Oh my God, you guys cut up an 85 C10." I'm like, "Yeah, we pulled it out of a barn. Like that thing would have been sitting there rotten right now because nobody would have built it. It's not the rarest car in the world." And then people get into the whole, "Well, you're trying to save the world by doing electric." No, like, we're just trying to go fast, dude.
Right.
It's like we're
trying to get
fast.
A to B, man. That's the quickest point.
Yeah, trying to get A to B and try to do it differently. You know what I mean? And learn while we're doing it. It's a huge learning curve. Yeah. So I think people got to get back to that basis that let people do what they love and have fun with it.
And I think Alan's approach to that was more so when these kind of creations start becoming more mainstream, is where will they fit in? I mean, we ideally and I've used this analogy a lot, is that people ask me what kind of clientele do I have at the shop, and the car guy is not the guy that will bang his knuckles Friday and Saturday nights with his boys in the garage to drive on a Sunday. He wears a suit Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and wants to drive his car all weekend.
Exactly.
And those are the clientele that walk in sometimes 8 times out of 10. So those are the people that aren't like Don and myself, that are like, well, what class are we going to be in? Right. And like more so, what do you define these as? Like, as far as like import, domestic, tuner, it's like, where exactly do you file that kind of creation? Right. As far as, I think that was his approach to it, as, I'm more of a, just like you, Don, I'm like, well, I just want to build a badass ride. That's right. Just what I want to do. And that the truck we built for SEMA last year was the same thing. It was just like, we just want to build something different. Like, what do you want to do with it? I don't know. Just strip it all down and clear coat it and shove a whole bunch of horsepower in it and bag it on 22s. And
well, you know what my big problem is, really. The problem that's defined me for over time is because I've sold cars.
Yep.
And to me, when a buyer comes in to look at a car, I don't know so much. I mean, I've turned wrenches, I've worked with fast cars, but I've seen the same kind of thinking that we've had over the years when, the same struggles and the overcoming it. But the thing is how do you introduce this stuff to the world? For me, has always been, what do I do to meet people that are accepting it? Do you know what I mean? How do I get them to adopt something when, like you were saying, the guys that come into your shop are not guys that turn wrenches anymore? It used to be I'm going to bring it in because I need you to fix it. Now they're bringing it in because I need you to make it.
I think it's going to come down to like builders out there like Don that are just going out there and doing something epic and be like, oh, by the way, the proverbial mic drop's going to be like, oh, by the way, it's electric.
Yeah.
And then little by little, you'll get like 20-30% of those people watching like, oh, no shit, huh?
Well, that's the thing is,
to get the gears turning.
I think that's what he did at the show is he brought something to the table.
I got a weird analogy.
People loved it
from some experiences in Vegas. So when you're sitting at a table for the first time playing a card game, say it's a bunch of guys at the table, 4 or 5 guys, and feel free to chime in here again, Don. Who's going to speak up first and ask how to play the game?
Right. Oh yeah.
The dealer's already playing it. Say the dealer's Don. He already knows the game. He's already playing it.
Right.
Who's going to speak up first? But when you watch the dealer and you learn, you keep watching him and watching what he's doing and watching his face card, and you get the concept there, what's going on. Then you're like, oh, I decided to, when you develop enough ammunition to fire back at your circle of hate that you may have around you when you initially drop an idea or what you're putting in your 70 Nova, like, oh, well, this, and this. Yeah. It's just lack of pioneers nowadays. It's lack of people like Don, lack of people like, myself sometimes, being able to break out of the mold. Like, we have to do this cookie cutter stuff to pay the bills sometimes, but in the back burner, we have these crazy ideas. So like, this is what we're going to do, but we need to feed those. We need to keep doing those because we need more dealers out there,
Well, that's the thing is I think that's what they brought to the table at SEMA. And that's why I think the buzz was so high about it, was that we brought something to the table that why do we play blackjack? Because it's fun. It's easy entry. It's easy to play. I don't always lose. That's the thing is 40% of the time I win. And I hate to say it like that, because really every time you buy a car, that's really what it comes down to is hopefully you did enough research ahead of time that you limit the amount of damage to your purse down the road until you get that first repair bill or whatnot.
That never happens.
Yep. Yeah, right. There's no buyer's regret here. But yeah, that's the thing is they have that entry level. And I think that's what I was saying with, I think that really brings it to the table here of not just saying that there are people who accept this stuff and they went to that show and they saw that car or they were online or they saw the post and they shared it. Those guys, you don't have to worry about them. They're already on board. People like me, I want to accept my problem with EV is not EV. It's people being forced to use EV. I think that it should be just like this.
I don't think the government should be coming in and saying, oh, by the way, we're getting rid of all your cool stuff. You need to go, We're going to find a way to we're going to find other ways to kill the environment unintentionally.
Right. But the other thing too is that this product should sell itself.
Yep. 100%.
I mean, if you're listening to it, but that's the thing is nobody's saying that. Nobody is coming out and saying, here's this cool product. And Don's over here like, hey, if I do this, I mean, imagine if you had somebody come into your shop and say, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to do 8 seconds, 9 seconds? Where you want to be at? Oh, I've
actually had that happen.
That's
kind of scary sometimes.
Right.
Like, okay, what have you driven before? Right.
Okay,
but this is going to be fun. I'm going to get my cameras ready.
So let me first take out your engine, and then I'm going to put this engine and this in it. And
I'm actually just going to sit in the engine bay and make race car sounds first and see how you react.
You're hired.
Then we'll go from there.
Don, we have a project on deck. You're on for this? Remember Spike? He volunteered for that.
I literally had somebody show up who'd never drag raced before, and they went out and bought an insanely horsepower, alcohol driven grudge car.
Was his name Don?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
And I refuse. And I like him. He's a good dude. He's a solid dude. But I'm not going to say his name on air.
Oh, good.
He's a good dude because he's learning. He's listening. But he's like, I just, I'm like, so what have you driven before? And he's like, and he mentioned a couple things, and I'm like, all right. So you ever been down the track before? Like, yeah, a couple times. Right. I'm like, okay, so that's like none.
Yeah, that's
all right. So we're gonna have to rent the track for a day.
I'm gonna go professional level. I've never raced before, so I know it's amateur. But yeah, let's go.
Yeah, we'll just unplug 4 wires, and then I'm gonna send you down the track. Right. And we'll go from there.
You can run half the engine. That's fair.
It's like I really don't want to pay to paint that Jersey barrier on the side of the track. Right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take the safety.
Everybody does it. It's the second you get that thing out there, it's either in the wall or it's broken.
Well, it's like that when they started releasing the Hellcat.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What? No, something fell.
Yeah, it was me.
Oh, it was you? What did you drop?
I didn't.
Did you unplug your thing? Oh, there he goes. Guys, he unplugged his microphone, his headset. There you go. It goes right to the end of your, or did you break it? Oh, there you go. This is professional level. Don, do you love this?
I love it.
I'm telling you. What's that?
I don't know when it ends.
It's somewhere back there. Just stand up. There you go. There you go. It's his first time on the show. We're doing great. A little bit.
Fixed it. Okay.
Should I edit that out, or we should leave that right in there?
It's fine.
Don,
Leave it in.
I'll leave it to
More
Don. What do you
style.
think? Leave it in or
Leave it
take
in. It's
out?
more style.
Oh, I like it. Okay, cool. That's the thing is,
Hey,
I love it. Yeah.
I tell you what, I think things are going to change a lot in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
It's exciting and also scary, but I feel like this is going to be the precipice for a lot of people to start getting creative, start getting wild with their ideas. Because, like I said, nobody wants a 32 Ford all the time. So it's going to be amazing to kind of see how this happens.
It's going to force the hand on that.
Right.
Don,
What's that?
Right. The industry shortage is going to it's going to force our hands on that. That's what we're going to be. You're right.
Well, I hope not. I hope this is a thing that we can all kind of take in, and because if God forbid,
Right.
if they ever started banning LS engines and aftermarket parts, stuff like
Well,
that,
I
a
mean,
lot of
like
us are going to
the
be hurt.
availability right now of everything. I think that's going to aid in the search for alternatives, in the acceptance of alternatives when you don't have anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think we all know which way it could go. I hope it doesn't go that way. But at the other arm, it's like, this is the time to start thinking about the creativity of doing something like this and how you can apply it to your shop. You don't have to be full on EV guys and sitting there tinkering with your multimeter all day, but you could start thinking, okay, I'm going to do one of these, maybe start designing this, do that. I want to maybe I want to start popping out 1,000 horsepower Corvettes, or I want to start doing this and do that. This is the kind of cool thing to start thinking about it, because no matter what, EVs work, just a matter of making it work for yourself.
Well, I think that's the reality is that no matter how we cut this, whether how you get into this, if you turn wrenches right now, if you're any kind of repair shop, if you're any kind of person, I don't want to tell people they have to close their doors if they're not going to accept the technology. I think that's the worst thing to do. But if you're not already in this, you're behind the eight ball.
100%.
Yeah, you gotta be. He's away from his mic. He's gonna.
I agree, Alan. I agree.
But yeah, that's
the wave's coming. This is the wave right now.
right. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is it's like you said, if you're not in it yet, you're outside the eight ball, and that's unfortunately I think a lot of people are into that. Is it not denial, or is it just they don't want to accept it?
Stubborn.
I can tell you what the next wave is going to be. I think it might be the last one that Ford ever makes, is what they're saying is the new Godzilla. Yep. Oh my goodness. 100%. Have you seen that thing? That thing is a shredder. That is something that there's a guy that I met at SEMA that makes a block off plate for the front that you can run a normal oil pump. And the whole design structure of that thing, that's going to be an LS killer, I think. I think that's going to be the new wave of hot rod motors that we get. They're pretty cheap. I think you can get one from Ford for $6,900 complete.
Yeah, well, you can get it. You can pull them from ATEC for like $600. They've been on the shelf all summer.
Wow.
Sitting there, ready to go. Yep. And everybody's not even talking about them.
7.3 liters. Like that's
not even that. The structure of it, the way the rods and the crank is, and the actual cam journal itself is made to be like everything's hot rod about it. I think some guy just made 1,300 horse with it, with a pretty mild combo.
That's crazy.
Single turbo, yeah. I mean, like that's going to be the motor we start putting in these things. We start testing those things out. Start pushing those things to the limits. They're cheap. They're easy to get their hands on. They're a little big, but I mean, anybody who builds cars can make some room for those things.
Well, let's go down this route then. Do we still think that there's? I don't want to say this. That I don't want to say there's a market, but because we know there's a market. But is there a point where we kind of double back on this? So some of us, we have our EV thing over here that we're doing for our one thing. And I have friends that are already doing this, by the way. They have their EV car, so they have their Tesla or whatever it is, and then they have their Monster 7.3 liter. I mean, is there's two paths?
The problem with fitting the Godzilla in certain things will be the dimensions of it, because I've had a couple customers come in and it just wouldn't fit the platform without major fabrication.
Yeah,
it's gnarly.
Yeah, it's as with most of the Ford engines, the Ford power plants, they're extensively wide and a lot as opposed to the narrower LS engine, just usually slides right in there. I was actually trying to pull up the dimensions on my phone because I actually had Ford Performance send me the dimensions of it back in February.
Yeah.
Because I had 2 clients that came in back to back, and I'm like, hey, I want to put this in your car, you know, and one of them actually still might be getting it done, but it's just that's going to be the kicker right there. But it's a nasty power plant. It is, and I'm not even a Ford guy. I am anti-Ford. I can't stand Fords. They're garbage.
Really?
Yeah, most of them.
I did not know this.
Yeah.
This is learning curve right now.
I build GMs and imports before I build Fords. Like it just wouldn't happen. And I have a 68 fastback in for a full restore right now. But I mean, I'll do it all day long. But this 7.3, they actually looks like they, you know, removed head from you know where and actually put something nice together.
Nice.
You know.
Yeah, she's a wild one.
All right. So Don, what's next for you?
Well, I got a passion project that I'm actually working on. Let me tell you a little about it. I'm not going to give out
I am all ears, buddy. Hit it up.
So I love V8s and I love all-wheel drive. I always thought that the Subaru should have had an LS in it, you know, and nobody's done that. There's been a couple guys who've made like an all-wheel drive Cutlass, and I think you came to my shop not too long ago and you saw the all-wheel drive truck.
Yes,
I sat back and thought there already are four-wheel drive trucks. All-wheel drive truck isn't going to be too different. So I'm actually designing a chassis for a 59 El Camino. It's all tube chassis. And I mean all tube chassis. Put on a jig. It's going to look something like, it's going to be all round tube, no square tubing. And it's actually going to be Godzilla based and all-wheel drive. So have you ever heard of a guy named Rob Dahm? He built a four-rotor all-wheel drive. I want to do something like that. Well, I'm doing something like that, but it's Godzilla based. I'm going to alter the oil pan to work with my front diff. And then I'm actually going to be using like a GTR transfer case or H1 transfer case. But other than that, I'm going to start putting that together. And that's going to be, it's one of the coolest cars I think in the world. It's like a car truck. But when you see them in real life, it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. The way the back wing comes up. We actually got we had a Nomad back there, which is kind of the same, but
yeah,
I think it's the coolest looking thing in the world. So what I'm going to do is like a modified 3-link in the back. It's going to be going through the bed. And then the front's going to be all independent suspension from a Corvette that I'm going to make all work. So this is going to be an autocross / 8-second car that you can drive on the street, but it's going to be under a 59 El Camino.
That's crazy. And that's the thing I love that tubing that you have when you use those setups on it. It just looks, I mean, it's very like, it was so funny when I used to get the Lambos in and you look at their frames and I'm just like, that's not a lot of frame. Do you know what I mean? It just didn't feel right. But when I see your stuff done, it's just everything looks stiff. It looks solid. It looks, ready to go. And that's the thing is, it's just I want to look at it and go like, it just needs a suspension and whatever huge gigantic engine you're going to throw in this thing and then make it work and it'll be diamond. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny. Using the LS engine would actually make this whole thing a lot simpler. But I really wanted to try a lot of stuff with the Godzilla, and I wanted to mat it up to a 4L80. But the whole idea about this is I want to have active traction control in it. I'm going to run like vehicle speed sensors in the front and rear. So when everything works, and one day it's going to work, you can physically take off at any surface. And I'll have variable maps depending on how fast the wheel speed's different, front and rear. And I'll actually have active traction control in it. And there's going to be no dismounting anything, no changing anything. Only thing I'll have to do is go change the instant center through the bed in the back when I want to go drag racing, make the car hit harder. Mm-hmm. And other than that, it's going to be making the car actually work, making the whole thing leave and actually. A lot of all-wheel drive cars have problems leaving the line, like the real fast ones, the 7-8 second ones. So making it go 8s, I get an 880 out of the thing, 870, and I can drive it home and then go around corners with it. I'd be stoked.
Yeah,
do it in that shell. I think they'll throw some heads.
That's the thing, and that's I hate to say this, but you do know once you do your first hit, the second one has got to be just as good, right? The album's got to be just as good as the first one. So,
well, I'm going to get them all out of the way off camera before I put it on camera. Because I'm sure it'll take me in a couple headbutts and a couple bad runs to make it work. But, it's going to get there. I got till next year. I got to get it to SEMA next year. So I'm starting it now. I already got the chassis table all ready to go and take all the parts that I've saved over the past years and start running it together. I just got to find the shell. It's the most hardest car I've ever found ever in my life. Camaros are easy.
Trust me,
trucks are easy.
I'm a 5960 guy, but I might have a line on a few. So you should message me.
Yeah. And it's funny, I told one guy what I wanted to do with it, and he says, "I will never ever sell you my car. I'll make sure nobody sells you one." And it was an El Camino.
I'll help you find one. I was just in Oklahoma, and I got to go back down there for 4 more that I left down there, and I know where there's a few. So just
wait, you have one?
Do
you have one?
I have locations of where there are ones.
Yes, I love you. Thank you so much.
You guys. This is the thing is I'm kind of like wondering if I had should put you two together at some point here, because this is now that you've met, I realize that you guys talk the exact same language. Like, and then I realized what I've put together here, and I was like, oh my God, this is the next Frankenstein is going to come out of here, and it's going to be like this beautiful monster that you're like, am I going to regret any of this, or it's just going to be a good merger here?
It'll be
No, we're gonna have some fun.
Yeah, it'll be more content for what it's like to drive.
As long as it doesn't involve explosions and burning cars or any of that, like as long as it's we make it to the end of
it won't involve any of that.
Hey, is it cold over? Is it cold over there yet, guys?
Oh God, it's freezing. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
What's the Jen? What's the temperature?
37 degrees.
37.
Gross.
Yeah. So 37.
Oh my
degrees.
goodness.
Yeah, we're actually doing. I mean, the sun is really still doing a good job of heating everything up. But after daylight saving times, you know how it crashes. So you're not missing much.
Hey, do you remember the Chevelle that I used to have?
You kidding me? It's like forged in my memory. I love that thing.
I don't know if you guys can the viewers actually see me on my face, or just I'll show you something. So
I can see you.
Hold on, let me get over here. I'll show you one of these. So if you guys can see that. And then there she is. I'm getting her back on the road.
Nice.
So this is a little 383 that I built twin turbo. From the fuel, based on the fuel numbers, they should make around 1,200 with the rear wheels. So I got to pop the transmission back in and get her rocking and rolling. I'm trying to get that thing into eights, and I'm going to get rid of it. But I've had it since I was 15.
That was the thing is I always love. Do you want to share the story about that thing, or?
Yeah, sure, we can talk about it.
Please.
So I'm a working man. I'm not loaded, right? So I'm trying to build this El Camino, like I told you guys. And I don't have the funds to do the whole thing the way I want. So I've had this car since I was 15. It was the car that my father actually wanted me to have. I looked at it we looked at multiple cars, and they're all a mess. Then we found this 70 Chevelle. We were going to go back and buy it. My father passed away like 3 days later. So I told the guy that I couldn't get it. And he's like, do you really want the car? And I'm like, yeah, I really do. He's like, I'll hold it for you. I work at Burger King back then. So told him it was going to take me a long time. He's like, I don't care. I got plenty of money, man. I'll hold on to it for you. So for 6 months I saved. My grandpa ended up coming and give me some cash. And for $5,500, I bought this thing when I was 15 and a half. Nice. I got the picture of my own scraggly hair. It was still the same color, but it was all red. This is the original paint I had. This was a fire I had after prom. It's still on, based on there. But anyway, I've had the car since I was 15 and a half. I built it 3 times. It went like 1250s, 1230s. And then I got in the 10s. And then the last combo with this before I pulled the motor out went 9.1. And then now I'm trying to get it in the 8s. But it's all original paint.
And you shared pictures of that on the track before, right? I've seen those pictures, right?
Yeah, that was probably the first time I raced it when I went 1240s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that thing is incredible. Just looking at the garage alone just makes me want to come over and visit. and don't tempt Spike. He'll actually get in the car and drive down.
I'm actually going to South Carolina this weekend, so
come down. Yeah, come down. I'll show you the truck. I'll show you the space. We got a bunch of cool stuff in here.
I knew it. See, what did I tell you?
Yeah,
it hasn't even started yet. Notice Spike has moved over to another location here so they can get a better view of the monitor. Because he was actually positioned behind him. We've actually moved the production chair over here so that you'll have at some point so you can have a better look at it. But
you ever heard of the Playboy? You ever heard of the Playboy car?
No, have I?
The car that was built for Hugh Hefner based on his original one. It's right here.
Oh, let's see it.
This is got a Nascar motor.
Look at that. Oh, I hate talking because every time I talk, it kicks over and doesn't view it. So,
but what I really want to show you is this. So we actually have an active NASCAR motor here right now.
Nice. The new breed or the old ones?
Oh, old school one.
Yeah.
Well, I can't move this up, but it's under this box. We have like an old spec from the 2010 NASCAR motor here.
Yeah.
Pretty wild. It's cool to see the technology and something like that. It's nothing like a small block.
Well, I'm so happy. Like I remember seeing you when we first did our film coverage of you. It was like the two bay lineup garage, and now you're in South Carolina and like filled with all these projects. It's good to be able to see you going down there and taking some of the skills that you have and putting it into this and really shining. And I'm really impressed by it.
Yeah, I realized this is what I want to do with my life. I used to be an engineer on boats, and I started to really hate it after a while. And this whole creative thing came over. And I had so much to learn. So I started my own shop, and I kind of realized what I liked and what I didn't like, but I wanted to learn from some of the best. And I got plucked into this project. I've been talking to other people, and I just keep on pulling info out of people. So hopefully one day when I get my own, because I still have the shop in Rhode Island. It's sitting there. It's all in there, cleaned up, ready to go. And I'm ready. We'll go back up there and be able to get my knowledge back out. But for now, I'm just trying to absorb everything and be the best asset to the people that help me out,
Well, that's the thing is we've said it before, steel sharpens steel. So if you want to be the best out there, you go to the best and you learn from the best. And then you take, obviously with what we do, we have to have some natural ability to it, but having the motivation to just pick up and leave like that and go to wherever you need to go to get that information. That's something that it's how do I teach that? How do I bottle it up and say, this is how to be successful? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be a humbling experience because I think what happens is a lot of this car guy stuff gets toxic. People think they know everything. Man, it's like you meet any true engineer and they're always humble. They're like, I don't know. I got to learn, it's like, there's so much to learn. If you want to be a truly gifted car guy, you're never really going to get there because you're always learning, right? So you have to be humble enough to be like, all right, I got to learn that. I want to learn this. And you just keep on pushing and pushing.
What was that thing called? Is it the Schrodinger Effect? It was the thing of when you test people and you ask them, you say, if you ask somebody who is actually good at something, they usually say they stay very humble. But if you ask somebody who has no idea how to do something, they usually say they score like in the upper 90 percentile. So that's the thing is it's that humble thing is so true. It's the idea of, the day that you think you're the expert is the day you're not.
The day that you're lost in the sauce. That's what I say.
Yeah, exactly.
The day that you walk in the classroom and you think you know more than everybody else is the day you're the dumbest one in the classroom.
Right. Yeah.
The thing that's crazy about it, like some of these car builders, to be a truly gifted car builder, there's so many different, like, all right, you want to be good at sheet metal? It takes thousands of hours to be good at sheet metal stuff, to be really good bead rolling, to making flat panels. You want to do chassis work? It takes a lot of hours to get good at mitering, tucking, and welding perfect seams. You know what I mean? Like every little aspect to wire a car, to properly pin a car, you have to get tons of hours under your belt to make it perfect. You want to use Deutsch connectors, how to pin it. It's like, so if you really want to get good at everything, you just got to keep on pulling any information you can. You got to study all the time because
one other thing,
you're already lost.
Yeah. One other thing that I try to tell people too is not just that, but people get into this and I'm not going to use the word antisocial, but that we get to the point of where we get busy and we don't think about the whole entire process, if you will. And the idea that you can't carry this burden by yourself. This is not anything that has to do with a car is going to be braking, engineering, dynamics, aerodynamics, controls, creature comforts. The concept of a car itself, it covers every form of engineering there is. And the idea that, some people come out there, I just gonna run my own thing and I'm never going to get any help and I'm just going to do whatever. You can't be an island in this thing and survive. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to have your family. And the thing is that's everybody that always tells me, oh, it's a toxic car community. And I said, show me your family. Because your family is going to define who it is. I mean, that's the thing that I love about the group that I have right now. Everybody around me is positive. There are people that are actually going to get it. Like we were saying before, steel sharpens steel, or don't be an expert, be humble. These are things that, I mean, this doesn't just work in the car world. This is something that works in everything that you could do, no matter what you do. If you want to do financing, if you want to sell houses, if you want to create a product, if you want to be innovative, this car world is this thinking that we have, the good people, if you will, they have so much to teach. So I don't, how do you teach it? You know what I mean? How do you get it out there? And people have to accept it. Yeah, exactly. There you go.
I think a lot of us in high school should have got taught how to how to be humble, how to live your life. None of us got that course. We got learned some algebra and some other things, but a couple of things hit you in life and you have to start learning. Do you want to go the north route? You want to be good, or do you want to go the south route and get sick? But one thing I thought was kind of funny was when you came and started recording, I always wanted to do YouTube stuff, and you would come in, make it look easy, pump out a good video. I started wanting to get to know it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's got to be easy. I can do it. So I started playing around. Garbage. Everything was junk. It was just like I was too artistic. Things weren't coming together. It was just a big jumbled mess of like Waylon Jennings and me doing burnouts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even my Instagram videos now are terrible. And then I met Kyle, the guy who did the videos for us for Salvage a Savage. And I watched them. I really wanted to study how I do. I'm like, oh my God, that's another art form. Like this is a whole other aspect that I want to learn. And hours looking how he did it. Like there's a YouTube formula to how things work and all that stuff.
Yep.
Like, woof. So it's amazing. Like if you want to start doing you can't really do a lot of this stuff by yourself. You have to have a good team, you know?
Mm-hmm. And that's it.
You got to find out what you're good at too.
Here's the thing that I'm going to teach, and I want you guys to listen to this because I think you're going to find it important. One of the things that there was a guy that was there's two guys and they sell shoes, and they go to this place in the middle of nowhere, and the company wants them to sell shoes, and they go over there and they meet the group of people that are going to be running whatever their shoe company is supposed to be. And the guy looks over and he says, you guys are you're all barefooted. The first guy. And he says, no, none of us wear shoes. So the first guy's like, oh, great. He gets up and he leaves, goes back to the hotel room, picks up his phone, calls back the place. And he says, this place is junk. Nobody here wears shoes. We're over. The second guy sees it, doesn't say a thing, holds his cards to his chest, says, oh, nobody wears shoes here? And he goes, no. Gets back in his thing, drives back to the hotel room, picks up his phone, calls the front desk, and he goes, we just hit the gold mine. Nobody here has shoes. The difference between those two people is exactly what we're in right now. We're in the middle of the surviving a pandemic, in the middle of some of the worst. Like right now, I have a bearing that I'm waiting for 3 weeks. Somebody out there in the middle of the start of EV land or hybrids or any of that technology that's coming out right now. We're in the middle of something, and there's going to be somebody right now that's going to take that ball. They're going to pick it up, and they're going to look over and say, nobody here has shoes, and they're going to find a way to get them shoes. And I'm telling you this right now, something's going to happen. There's going to be the next Jeff Bezos. There's going to be the next Elon Musk. If somebody in our car community will pick up that ball and run, and there's so many balls out there just laying on the ground that nobody's touching. I mean, you know how hard it is to find anybody to work.
Yeah, 100%.
So, I mean, I had a friend the other day that I walked over, and he says, he shows me the amount of people that have, they filled out things to get employed. And he says, he's got a stack. It looks like a book. And he says, guess how many of these people showed up? And I said, how many? I was thinking like 2 or 3. And he goes, none of them. All of these guys, nobody showed up to get a job. And he says, if you can get good workers right now, you could get the teams, you get this, you're in the middle of the biggest opportunity ever right now. And I just, like I said, I think that somebody's got to find it and somebody's got to run with it. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're right. I think a lot of us have to also lead by example and pass the torch. What I'm kind of learning in life now, it doesn't matter how good we are or what we do. Well, if we don't give back, then it's all kind of pointless, isn't it? So what I'm trying to do is hopefully I can get myself to a point where I can build cool cars, pass the torch somehow, to either teach younger kids, get them in there, get them motivated and happy and excited. And hopefully one day when I'm all dialed in, I can give back that way,
Well, you're doing
give free knowledge away, That's another big thing. Knowledge.
Well, I think there's 2 things that I've learned here, and Spike, correct me if I'm wrong here. I think this is perfect. Was number 1, you brought something that everybody wanted to pay attention to. Some people pay attention to it for the wrong reasons. Some people pay attention to it for the right reasons. But tonight we've actually talked about some of the reasons to jump into the EVs and to consider some of this stuff. And I think they're all good reasons. And the thing is we've given some people out there something to think about, to say, let's grow this car community. And I hope that we've kind of spurred somebody to say, you know what, maybe this isn't as toxic as I thought it was. Maybe this is the next level. Maybe this is where we need to go in the future. And maybe I should reconsider it, because there's a lot of good people in this area.
I think it's going to be educating the people that are out there. Like Don said,
Mm-hmm.
I think getting it out on YouTube, getting the exposure out there, getting the short clips, the short reels, if you would, on Instagram and stories and TikTok. And, I think making the splash, wherever you can and anywhere you can, with little just information tidbits, instead of trying to, break it all down in like an hour segment or hours of segments. Just be like, hey, this is cool. Look at the monotony that this thing causes.
I completely agree with that TikTok analogy. The TikToks, the YouTube shorts, any kind of the stuff that we're doing right now. I think that's just, you can't go wrong with that kind of introduction to whatever we're doing out there and grabbing this next generation. All right, this is the show for today. Don, I want people to be able to find you. Where are they going to be able to go to find you and get involved and see some of the cool things that you're doing?
Yeah, my Instagram is one of them. It's my name, Don Abenante, on Instagram. It's an easy one to follow. You can go look at the YouTube channel. It's Salvage the Savage. And then get ready because my new one's coming out where I'm building the car of my dreams. And we'll get that out there. But the one thing I want to end with is, man, I don't care who you are, what you are. If you're in it for the right reasons and you like to create or you want to learn and you're into whatever you're building, don't listen to what everybody else says. Have fun with it. This is what it's all about. It started all back in the day where people trying to go faster from the cops moon and shine, and now we're here. We're getting to build these creative outlets. So if you like it, you love it, enjoy it. Have fun with it. Don't worry about anybody else.
That was my grandfather, by the way. I had one grandfather that was the sheriff, and my other grandfather ran Shine. They actually had their thing. So it was so funny to see the actual people.
None of that surprises me.
And actually see the cars. And oh yeah, you know how to detect a good shine, right?
Oh yeah.
You know how to do that? If you put your thumbnail in it and the thumbnail falls off, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my
Crazy.
God. I wish me and Spike were back then. We would have had the fastest cars around.
Oh, dude, you have the stuff that they did. You just listen to them. And today, having flashbacks to it, back then I kind of listened to it. I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. Now I think about it and I'm like, just cutting and tearing and doing whatever. And hey, it works. It's
absolute.
It just needs more air. It just needs more air and gas. And that's back with leaded fuel. And oh, yeah. There's no wonder.
I want to say thank you guys for having me on. It means a lot. It's cool to be able to get the story out there. Thank you guys.
No problem. Yeah, that's the thing is I always wondered why my brain cells started off really slow when it came to early time. I was like, it's no wonder I'm surrounded by enough lead in my gasoline to choke a horse. Like it's so bad. All right. So yeah, thanks Don for coming on. Spike, you got anything to say before we end this?
I fixed my mic.
I've heard you fix your Instagram too.
Yeah, well, sort of. I didn't really. The Russians got to my other Instagram. I'm still working on it.
It was actually Nigerians, and I tracked
Nigerians, and you tracked them. But I got a new one started. I'm not happy about it because I worked really hard on the old one, but we're still working on the old one too. But for now, yeah, we'll get it fixed. Spike Speed Shop Inc. Yeah.
Instagram. Well, we'll get it out there. We'll put a link if you guys want to in the descriptions. You'll be able to follow him.
YouTube, TikTok.
Yeah, YouTube here. But yeah,
horrible waste of time.
We'll have Don on when he make his next monster, or probably we'll have snippets from you when you guys go down and do something.
Yeah, I'm
crazy.
supposed to be leaving Friday to drop off a 70 Chevelle I just built. So in South Carolina.
Well, you guys are already on the same chat together, so I've already created the evil that's gonna.
Yeah, come down, man. Come down and visit. Come down and hang out. I'll show you everything.
Oh, he will. Yeah. That's not even a doubt. Like I already know he's planning it right now.
Oh yeah.
All right. So thank you guys for tuning in. Remember to check out these other the videos that we have on here. Remember that we have at Executive Automotive Society. We have the YouTube. We have our new website is up and running. We've been putting content to that with a lot of crazy stuff out there, a lot of new unveilings, a lot of driving stuff. I don't expect to slow down much for the winter. We are going to do more. And obviously Carside Chat, we're going to have it at least once a week. And then the new automotive news stuff. So I mean, we've done all this crazy stuff, and we're going to keep bringing you more stuff, and down the future. So check this out, and like and subscribe, hit the bell icon. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you. It's been Carside Chat. This is Spike, Primo, and Don. You guys have a great night. Bye.
Take care.